It's a Tuesday today, so we often address matters literary on the afternoon show with me, Paul Ross, and now we're going to talk about a stage adaptation of a literary classic. It's very rare that a short story or novel is so powerful it passes into our imagination, into the parlance of everybody, even if they've never read the original. It happened, for example, with H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, it happened certainly with Gulliver's Travels, and it happened with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, written by Treasure Island man himself, kidnapped author Robert Louis Stevenson, and the Progress Theatre at Reading's Progress Theatre, and it's on until Saturday, is a stage version of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I'm delighted to say Gareth Saunders, who plays both roles, joins us now. I've not given the game away, Gareth, have I?
No, not at all, Paul. No, you haven't.
And how tough is it to play both sides of one human personality? One actually kind of thoughtful, cerebral, intellectual and caring, and the other maybe not so much.
Well, I think it's a tough role simply because it's a very physical role, especially when you get into the Hyde, the violence, the way that he loses control, the craziness of that particular character. Dr. Jekyll, not quite so much, but he's very much, pulled in. He's very staid, and that's quite tough as well because it's very controlled.
They're wearing a quite spectacular pair of Victorian sideburns, which I understand, which you've grown yourself, of course, fantastically. Do you actually alter your appearance when you become Hyde, but without giving too much away? What happens during the transformation?
Yeah, one of the reviews we've had some great reviews, mentioned my hair. So one of the techniques I use is maybe just to change the hair as a kind of a prop, as it were. But the majority of what I do is I think I just change the tone of my voice, my posture, and just it's about losing control. He reacts on just what's in front of him.
It's kind of he becomes almost a creature completely of impulse and appetite.
Oh, totally.
Yes,
yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Because Freud once said he based his notion of the superego and the ego and the id on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because he read that as a young man. He thought, well, actually, we've got this civilised veneer and we behave ourselves and we do what's expected of us, but deep below the surface of many of us are these kind of seething currents of desire, and often, sadly, the desire to inflict violence or to take exactly what we want at any given moment.
Yeah, without care for any of the repercussions. Yeah, absolutely, and that's the way I play it, I guess. And that's what's part of the fun about doing it. You give them permission to do this, and it's much of what we do in real life is about delaying that gratification, and Mr. Hyde is all about he sees it much like a toddler. I think there's a part of the character I think that I'm coming out with, which is very much a child that sees something and he wants it, and he sees no reason why he shouldn't get it.
In fact, I mentioned, I think in the original novella or short story, in the transformation there, Mr. Hyde is smaller than Dr. Jekyll. In many of the film versions, he gets bigger, and I think in that rather odd film, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, he becomes this hulking great giant, in fact. Which is, great fun at nonsense, that movie with Sean Connery and people. Yeah. How do you play Hyde? What are you basing that on, either from other performances or from yourself?
I make him much more grounded. I think Dr. Jekyll is much more upright, perhaps typical of a man, perhaps of the Victorian era, where you were... your posture was everything. It was about showing that you were very much in control. And I think with Hyde, he's grounded. So I stoop, I prowl, I'm looking constantly, taking everything in that's around me as if it was new and fresh. So he's reduced perhaps in size, but very much stronger as a result.
Now, there was a Spencer Tracy version and I think a Frederick March version in the 30s and early 40s, black and white, and both of those made Hyde much hairier and almost a bit like an evolutionary throwback to something more almost primeval, primitive. Is that something you draw on?
Yes, I think so, yeah. You have images, don't you? I mean, he's not Neanderthal, but there's an element perhaps of that caveman type base instinct that maybe all of us have inside of us, that kind of inner child, as it were. Yeah.
And do you get screams? Have people been frightened by your performance?
Well, I don't want to give too much away, but yes, we have had a few people jump. Yes, in the audience.
I'm trying to get along to this on Saturday. I've got to rearrange a couple of things, but I'm looking forward to it because I love this as a story, and the notion of doing it on stage, I think, is a brilliant idea. Yeah. Has it been done before ever as a stage play?
I wouldn't know. I mean, certainly this has been performed. Sure. It's an American playwright, so it's clearly been performed over there. I don't know if there's been any other one. No.
Because the other fascinating
there is a musical.
Yeah, but I mean, the other fascinating thing about this is the fact that it's a story that can be as big or as small as you like. It can be. You can imagine it almost as a one-man show.
Yes.
You know, or it can be on a massive scale, of course. And you've got what, 8 or 9 of you in the cast there?
There's 8 of us, and two of the cast members play multiple roles. So you could have 24 people in the cast.
Sure.
But the rest of the cast are terrific. It's a great team that we have there, and they're all doing terrifically well.
And without giving too many trade secrets away, how was the director work with you on this? Because I can imagine you could either be slightly reserved or you could go completely over the top if you wanted to and let the director pull you back in.
Yeah.
Which one of those two, if either, did you go for?
That's a great point, Paul, because that was a concern of mine. You know, how far do you go with this? Because
you don't know what to, I mean, there's always that slight danger with things tipping over into almost comedy.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's like when you're playing a monster with your children. If they do get genuinely frightened, you can always immediately say, no, it's only Daddy, come here. And they kind of, you can take it away from it very quickly.
Yeah, like a pantomime villain almost. Yes, no, I pushed it as far as I dared, and Steph, our director, and she's terrific with all of us. But she said to me, just keep going, and I'll tell you if it's too much. And she never did. I kept going.
Oh, wow.
So I must have been going on the right path. And he does feel genuine. I don't feel that it's pantomimic, if you like, at all. Which, that sheer energy, I think, is what's coming out. So I love it, yeah.
Because it reminds me of, I saw an interview once with Jack Nicholson talking about working with the very reclusive Stanley Kubrick. And they made The Shining, of course, an adaptation of Stephen King. It's a different version. There's different elements to the plot and stuff. But one of the interview, I think it was Barry Norman, said to me, you're really going for this. He said, you're known for being an emotionally dynamic performer. He said, but you're really going for this. He said, I kept offering Stanley more and more and more.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm really worried about coming across as hammy. And Kubrick said, no. Where we're going, Jack, is beyond acting. Isn't that a fantastic answer?
Yes, absolutely. I try and scare the other members of the cast. And if I can do that, then I know I'm going.
You sneak up behind them when they're off stage, do you? Give him a cheeky pinch. Maybe not.
Maybe not.
He's staying with us. It's Gareth Saunders, who plays Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Progress Theatre, Reading. It runs until Saturday. It does sound fantastic. More from Gareth after this. It's BBC Radio Berkshire. That, friends, was Randy Crawford with You Might Need Somebody. I'm Paul Ross, and with me is Gareth Saunders, who plays not one but 2 lead roles in a big production at the Progress Theatre in Reading, which runs until Saturday, of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and, by the way, Mr. Hyde. Gareth plays Dr. Jekyll and also the housemaid Nellie. I'm joking, of course. He's also Mr. Hyde, although you've probably got the legs for Nellie. He plays Mr. Hyde as well. And this is your second big and unusual production with Progress, isn't it, I think?
I've done a couple, yeah. But, this is the second with Steph, the director. Yeah.
And the first one was a First World War drama.
That's right, yeah. Not about heroes, about Siegfried Sassoon and his the relationship he had with Wilfred Owen in Craig Lockhart Hospital in Scotland.
And they both were sent for shell shock, effectively, or what we now regard as post-traumatic stress disorder or whatever.
Yeah. And, of course, they didn't know a great deal about the effects that shell shock had on their soldiers at the time. And perhaps they weren't quite as respectful of the problems that they were going through and so on and so forth. But certainly not of the soldiers, and it was a story also about the poetry of the atrocities and the carnage of the First World War, yeah. The
poetry is in the pity, as Wilfred Owen wrote, and he wasn't wrong, was he? I mean, it's an absolutely tragic tale. And we were saying while that record was playing, of course, he died just, a week before Armistice?
Yeah, he did, yeah, that's right. And in a very brave escapade across, trying to get things sorted out. He was shot doing his duty and so on. And within, it was a week later that the telegram arrived back at his parents' house to tell them of his death. And,
on Armistice Day itself?
While everybody was celebrating.
So the bells were ringing across England, no more war, except your son's died. Wow. OK, now, you auditioned for this, you were saying, as a kind of open audition. How did you come to get involved in the Progress Theatre Group in the first place? Because you're originally from Wales, I think, aren't you?
That's right.
Have you got a work permit? Can I check your passport? Are you allowed to be here? I mean, you've been here 30-odd years now.
I got through the gates here, I don't know how, but... I came... I went to university in Manchester and then took a job here in Reading, and have been here ever since, so 32 years ago now. But I was brought up in South Wales in a place called Cowbridge, part of our alumni was Anthony Hopkins. He was at that school as well. So he never talks about me being at that school.
No.
But,
I'm sure it's only envy.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's just jealousy, Gareth. He knew you got this plum part of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. The boys are just greedy, let me tell you. Oh, it's terrible, terrible. Stole both my parts. That was meant to be a Welsh accent. I do apologise if you're a leak eater.
Yeah.
And what actors do you admire? Who do you think has demonstrated kind of proper chops? Because film acting, I'm sure, I mean, I wouldn't know, but film acting must be very different to kind of stage acting. And very few people, I think, have really mastered both.
True. I think. Well, Anthony Hopkins is a right up there, isn't he? He's done all of that. I think Michael Caine, I think, is as a film actor, terrific.
He's got another new film out. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's had great reviews. And you think, I mean, he's got to be mid to late 70s, hasn't he, Sir Michael Caine?
Yeah, and he's so unassuming in his own way, isn't he? He's just very normal, very natural. And
we did a great masterclass once. It may have been for the BBC. It's often repeated, and it was after he'd done Educating Rita, which started as a stage play, of course. And he works with a couple of very good and professional actors, but he just makes such a difference to the performance just by saying, no, he would sit. He's a man who's been battered by life and he's given up, so he would sit like this, and he kind of moulds these actors like they're plasticine, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
and you kind of think he comes across always as if it's a game for him and he's unassuming, but of course it's absolutely not. It is his craft and his life, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the most subtle of actors, isn't he? He doesn't need to do a great deal. I think Mr. Hyde, he's out there, but sometimes, you can bring it all in, and you can see the energy coming from just the raising of an eyebrow sometimes, or, just a glint in the eye, yeah.
It sounds like a great, if slightly scary evening out. It's the Progress Theatre's version of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Huge pleasure to meet you, Gareth, and good luck with it. I'm trying to get along on Saturday.
Oh, that's terrific.
If I can arrange for the probation officer to remove my tag, but I'll do my best to be in the audience. So
Yeah,
don't
it'd be
frighten
great
us
to
too much.
see it. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. In regards to the Progress Theatre Company, and there's got to be a Progress Theatre website, I'm sure people want to find out.
There is,
tickets.
yes. You just go on Google, type in Progress Theatre, you'll get straight to the website.
See, Gareth, right there is a problem because other search engines are available.
Oh, yes.
As we have to say.
Well,
They're just probably not as good. Being an arse, I'm sure they're all equally fine. I'm in trouble now. When you're in a hole, stop digging. So check out the Progress Theatre Company's website. And also, if you want to get involved, you can find out about membership details and how you can get involved in auditions if you want to get involved in the fantastic, if demanding world of drama. Thank you very much indeed, Gareth.
Thank you very much.
You must come back and see us again. Gareth Saunders there from the Progress Theatre Group, who plays both Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is just plain greedy at 3:25.